So for me, at least with Bitcoin, I think you put in a bottom around mid-year of 2023, maybe in the second half. I think this bear market's going to be a longer bear market than what we're used to because all the previous bear markets, you always had Fed printing money, right? So it kind of probably accelerated us getting out of that bear market. Here we don't have that unless they started, obviously, again, which is hard to imagine, like we said, if inflation remains above 2%, which I think it will at least through 2023. But again, there will be a pivot point where Bitcoin gets to a level where people start to sniff out that if the economy gets so bad, the Fed will have to start lowering rates. And I think that's where you get that next big bull market to start. And so I think, again, mid 2023, late 2023 is probably the key for Bitcoin.
Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com and verified crypto investing Gareth Soloway updates about his outlook on crypto and stock markets for October and November 2022, whether he is bullish or bearish right now, and his thoughts about the short-term price action in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video where Gareth Soloway reveals the possibility of a new rally after the Fed pivots.
So I think overall, I'm net midterm bearish, both on crypto as well as stocks. And again, the thing is, we just have to continue to remember that inflation is at a point and it's not down below 2% yet. So the Fed, if we do slip into a recession, which is what I think is going to happen, there's no way for us to get out of that recession, right? So that means that we're not going to print our way out like we have in the past, and therefore we're going to likely see further downside.
Bitcoin price has been in a steady consolidation for more than 2 weeks and shows no signs of directional bias. Bitcoin price remains above $19,157, which is the biggest traded volume level for 2022, aka point of control. Buyers are safe as long as Bitcoin remains above the POC. However, a breakdown could result in a steep correction to the next high volume node at $15,551.
Yeah, so short term, I continue to be on the focus of thinking that it is more on the near term bullish side. A couple things make me feel that way, and I can show my screen real quick here. Number one, you have a support line on the Bitcoin chart. If you connect this low, we're still holding this area of support. So we're kind of dancing around this 20,000. And I think one of the key things that I'm noticing is sentiment is really, really bearish on Bitcoin. Yes. So again, with sentiment being so bearish, it makes me almost a little bit bullish. The fact that we've been going sideways and sentiment has remained this bearish. So you almost want to see a little bit of a pop to get that sentiment to be more bullish in the near term. So I think, again, if you combine a Fed pivot, or at least the chance of a Fed pivot, it's more of a risk-on in situation. The dollars started to come off the all-time, well, not the all-time highs, but 20-year highs. And those are all recipes for a potential short squeeze in Bitcoin, at least to 22, 24, maybe 25,000. Midterm, I'm still in the camp that it's going to still see 12 to 13,000 at minimum. So I am midterm bearish, but I am short-term bullish here.
A closer look at the Bitcoin price shows a bear flag in play. As the name indicates, this technical formation contains a flagpole which has formed as Bitcoin crashed 18% between September 12th and 19th. The consolidation in the form of an ascending parallel channel resulted in the flag formation.
Yeah, so I do think the Fed. So the key thing is going to be like, what is the pivot? So I do think the Fed is going to pivot soon, but I think it's important to understand that a pivot is just a kind of a climbing the mountain to coming down the mountainside, right? So we've had 3 rate hikes of 75 basis points in a row. So a pivot could even be early November, just 50 basis points, and then after that it's 25, and then we could go to 0. Rate hikes, but that still means the interest rate is going to be right around 4% on the Fed funds rate, right? So the idea here is that I think that at some point they will not hike anymore, but I don't see them looking to decrease those rates for at least probably a year until one of two things happens. One, it could be that we see the inflation rate get below 2% so that then they feel confident in lowering rates again, or two, things get so bad in the global economy, things get so screwed up that even with inflation above 2%, they still are like, oh my goodness, we'll tolerate 4% inflation. We need to print money anyways because things are like a depression.
A breakdown of this technical pattern forecasts an 18% downswing to $15,800 obtained by adding the flagpole's height to the breakout point at $19,417.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just for instance, the last couple days until today in the stock market, I think Monday and Tuesday of this week, we saw the biggest stock market 2-day move in like since 1930 or something. I mean, it was a remarkably epic move, close to 6% on the S&P 500 in just 2 days. So that was the market. Basically, we got a very poor ISM number early in the week. We got the UN saying, hey, listen, we need to calm things down in central bank lands. Don't hike as much. I mean, so there's a lot of this, and we know obviously Bank of England kind of pivoted already last week. And so I think the market was sniffing out that type of scenario. Today, we got a little bit of a stronger private sector jobs number. And that again kind of makes people think, wait a minute, maybe they won't. So there's this battle going on where you're absolutely right. If the Fed does pivot, it's going to be a relief. Everyone's going to say, thank goodness we're on the downslope now. But again, it's hard to know exactly when that will happen. I do think it could be as early as November, though.
Additionally, the realized price of whales holding more than 1,000 Bitcoin is around $15,800. The realized price of these BTC is calculated by taking into account the volumes flowing in and out of exchanges and the Bitcoin price at that time. Interestingly, this number coincides perfectly with the technical forecast, adding more credence to the possibility of a steep correction to $15,800.
I'm kind of in the camp of a 50 basis point in November, which I think the market is looking for. The market's looking for anything different than 75 at this point. Yeah. So I do think that's the case. I don't necessarily think it will revolve around politics as much as just the fact that, I mean, the Fed has done 375 basis points in a row. I mean, unless they're trying to push us into depression, they need to start toning it down a little bit and then wait a few months to see how's the economy doing. Because, again, we all know that interest rate hikes, historically, it takes about 3 to 6 months to filter into the economy. So you could argue that we've just started to see that first 75 basis point in the economy, but we haven't seen the other 275 basis points yet. And I think the Fed could be looked at as being very reckless here and almost reactionary in an emotional way, versus maybe being more measured and saying, let's wait and see how things come out in a few months. And then if we have to hike 75 again in 3 or 6 months, we do it, but don't overdo it and push us into a depression.
While the initial outlook for Bitcoin price might seem bearish from the above explanation, investors should look at this potential crash to $15,800 as an opportunity to accumulate Bitcoin and altcoins at a discount.
Basically, as long as you don't trade below this trend line, then you would be positive on Bitcoin, right? So this is a very obvious trend line across here, slightly angled up. Right now, that trend line is right around 18,500. So as long as we don't trade below that, I think then you keep a neutral to positive view on Bitcoin with potential upside. Again, any sort of upticks maybe through 21,000, you could get a little bit of a short squeeze there with sentiment being so bearish.
So, do you agree with Gareth Soloway's Bitcoin outlook for October-November 2022? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.